Persona 6 will no doubt be one of the biggest JRPG releases this decade, and with so many hopeful Persona fans wishing for an official reveal of Persona 6 real soon, I thought now is the best time to go deep into every Persona 6 leak and rumor, including statements released from Sega and Atlus. Heck, even some rumors point at the Game Awards and even a Switch 2 reveal being the moment Persona 6 finally gets its proper official reveal to the world. So smash that like button if you're a fan of the Persona series like me, and grab your favorite snack from Juness as we take a chronological look at every single rumor and leak that has come out for Persona 6 thus far. It goes without saying, none of these leaks and rumors we are about to go through have been confirmed by Atlus, so take all this with grains of salt. Also, as much as it would be awesome to see Persona 6 at the Game Awards in just a matter of days, I'm not saying that the game will make an official appearance there. If we don't hear about it at the Game Awards, we're gonna hear about Persona 6 within the next year or so. So just go into this video for a complete and up-to-date summary of everything that we know about Persona 6, both confirmed by the developers and from the various leaks and rumors. Because we have a lot to go over, this information will be split into 3 distinct parts, with the first part discussing the various statements from Sega and Atlus themselves, before heading into part 2, where we have compiled everything we have learned about Persona 6 from the first round of leaks that occurred during the first half of the year, before concluding in part 3, where we will dive into the more recent leaks and rumors that corroborate much of the content outlined in part 2's leaks, while further adding to them, like release date information, additional Persona games in development, and more. Alright, with that out of the way, are you pumped for Persona 6? You bet I am, so let's get right to it. Starting with statements from Atlus, we're going several years back to 2017, right when Persona 5 launched on the PS3 and PS4 in the West. It was here that fans spotted a recruitment website that all but confirmed Persona 6, with former Atlus CEO and president Naoto Hiraoka, now managing editor for Atlus, bringing up the topic of upcoming projects for Atlus. Here is what Hiraoka had to say about a prospective Persona 6, with the translation provided from the talent at Persona Central. Thanks to the large amount of support we received for Persona 5, we have gotten a sense of accomplishment, but we can't stop there. When we created Persona 4, there was pressure that it had to exceed Persona 3. Now, we will have to create a 6 which exceeds 5. However, exceeding 5 will be difficult with the current staff. I would like to surpass this tall hurdle with everyone who joins us in this recruitment. The workplace is perfect for those who want a creative challenge when it comes to bringing games to the world. With Hiraoka stating here that it would be difficult to exceed Persona 5 with the current staff, this statement hints at a desire for a larger team, capable of accomplishing something that is a bit more ambitious than the previous Persona games. And if there's any merit to what we've heard from the insider information later on, Persona 6 is definitely slated to be the biggest Persona game yet. It is worth noting that just a year prior, in 2016, when Persona 5 first launched in Japan, that Atlus also formed a brand new studio, Studio Zero, containing many elite Atlus members who contributed to the Persona series over the years, with its first game, the incredible Metaphor ReFantazio, having released this past October. Metaphor was Atlus's fastest selling game of all time, selling more than 1 million copies on its first day alone. Go ahead and play it if you haven't already done so. Trust me, it's one of the best JRPGs out there. Getting back to Persona 6, over on Persona Central, GNN Gamer asked Atlus, because Studio Zero has been established, we will not see Persona 6 anytime soon, right? Hiraoka responded by stating that the Persona franchise remains Atlus's most important series, and that Atlus will continue to give it that distinction well into the future. Hiraoka stated, quote, "The next step for it is already in preparation, so stay tuned." That next step appears to be in the numerous job postings for Persona 6 that we went over earlier, so work on this game likely started in the late 2010s on Persona 6, with one of the reliable insider sources confirming just that, of which we will get into shortly. Before we get into the insider information, let's fast forward to November 2023, where Sega, the publisher of the Persona series in Japan, stated in a Q&A session with investors with the ambitions that, quote, "It would be possible for Persona 6 to achieve sales of 5 million copies in its launch year by releasing it on multiple platforms and simultaneously worldwide from day one. The statement hints at numerous things: a sales target, plus a worldwide launch, of which we saw happen with Persona 3 Reload, and also a multi-platform launch, which would break the tradition of having every mainline Persona game debut on a PlayStation console, outside of Persona 3 Reload, which happens to be a remake. Also, finally having documentation of the title Persona 6 stated from Sega is enough to hit home just how real this game is getting. And that transitions us directly into part 2, where we'll be looking at everything we've heard regarding Persona 6 from the various insiders over the first half of 2024. We first learned about Persona 6's platform information when insider Nate the Hate discussed that Persona 6 will likely come to the Xbox platform, with, quote, "From what I've heard, it does seem as though Persona 6 will be coming to the Xbox, so fans have something to look forward to," said Nate the Hate. I'm not 100% sure if it's like day and date with the PlayStation version, but considering the way the Persona games have been day and date with the multi-platform releases at this point, it may be a safe assumption to make that Persona 6 will be day and date on Xbox and PlayStation. We're going to have to make mention of the now infamously defunct ex-user Midori here, and while the identity of Midori has been revealed as Ryan from the Bronx, of whom will resurface in part 3, just know that regardless of what befell this Midori account when it was active earlier this year, that the information this user disclosed was incredibly reliable. Midori accurately revealed games like Persona 3 Reload and its DLC and Persona 5 Tactica well before their official announcements, so while Midori doesn't exist right now under this current name, you can rest assured that this user knows what they're talking about, but again, as these are leaks and rumors, take them with grains of salt. Earlier in 2024, Midori validated this information and went further by saying that Persona 6 will be available on multiple platforms, even including the Switch 2, which is tentatively slated to release next spring in 2025. Due to the success of Persona 3 Reload having achieved sales of over 1 million units sold within its first week, it wouldn't be shocking to hear that Atlus may be planning, just as Sega had discussed in the financial report, to release the game on multiple platforms at launch to achieve tremendous success. While we have no official confirmation of the platforms, I would imagine Persona 6 to launch on the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Steam, and Switch 2. Midori would go on to claim that even Persona 3 Reload would be getting a Switch 2 release, so I'm sure getting Persona 6 on Nintendo's next handheld hybrid will be of great importance. As to when we can expect to see the game get announced, Midori claimed in the summer of last year that it will be, quote, talked about next year, as in 2024, along with an unrevealed spin-off game. This spin-off game for a long time was rumored to be Persona ASA, which was slated to be a party game starring the cast of all 5 Persona games, but this game has since faded from existence, with all Persona insiders suggesting the game got cancelled. Nevertheless, Midori in November 2023 stated that Persona 6 is slated for a release sometime in 2025. Head on the Block, another prominent Persona leaker that also correctly predicted a number of game reveals, including exactly when Persona 3 Reload was to be revealed last year, further corroborates Midori's claim, stating that Persona 6 is a lock for 2025. Zippo, a prominent Sega insider, however, claims that Persona 6 is slated to release in 2026 to punctuate Persona's 30th anniversary. Either way, we are likely to hear about Persona 6 officially later this year if it indeed releases next year in 2025, just like Midori and Head on the Block have claimed. Earlier this year, Midori claimed on Twitter that Persona 6, along with Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Tactica, began development back in 2019. So the game has certainly been cooking for several years, if this turns out to be true. Go ahead and let me know in the comments when you think we will get an announcement for Persona 6 and when the game will ultimately release. But for me, I'd love to see it release in 2025, but for a monumental title like Persona 6, I wouldn't be surprised to see Atlus push this game into 2026 to really cap off the 30th anniversary. But man, would I like to be wrong on that. While Persona 3 Reload is great, I can't wait to finally experience another mainline Persona game for the first time again. Moving on to the content of the game, Midori came out and said that the game's color scheme is green, which aligns with what Head on the Block over on Reset Era said in mid-March this year when he stated that the color scheme is green. But in addition to that, added that the theme of Persona 6 is black and white, stating that you can do things during the day or at night. He also adds that there will be 2 main characters with names that start with K and S. We'll get back to Head on a Block's post real quick, but just wanted to point out that Persona 6 could likely feature a dichotomy of sorts, just like the black and white theme suggests, along with both day and night. The letter P and the number 6 are nearly split images of the same character, with the number 6 being an inverted P, representing a yin-yang-like appearance. So the importance of two protagonists, along with a black and white theme giving importance to both day and night, may be correct here. As for the names starting with K and S, in Japanese, the color black is Kuro, and the color white is Shiro, so maybe this naming scheme, if true, plays into the theme of the game? Also, fun fact, Midori in Japanese translates to green, so hey, who would have thought? We'll just have to see if this ends up happening when we get more concrete details of the game. Either way, it is likely that green is the official color of the game, even though the theme may take on two different colors. The green color has been the primary color of choice for many Persona 6 theorists over the years, and Atlus may have been dangling this color in our face all these years since they released this artwork for the series' 25th anniversary with the green paint in the bucket. Sound off in the comments what you think about the color green for Persona 6, along with the theme of black and white. In this same post, Head on the Block claims that there is a foreign exchange student in the game, of which may or may not be one of the protagonists. That much is unclear, and also states that there is at least one DLC that lets you, quote, fly. So, when going over DLC for Persona 6, last year Midori pointed out that Sega was interested in giving all its titles a series of DLC to extend the lengths of their games, with Midori stating that Lost Judgment was used as a blueprint of sorts for Persona 3 Reload in that game's DLC. Little did we know, less than a month after Persona 3 Reload launched, that DLC was indeed coming to that game, and it arrived in a way very similar to that of Lost Judgment, where we got soundtrack and cosmetic packs, along with a big content pack including an additional storyline and playable characters in the way of Persona 3 Reload's episode Aegis, with Midori stating that Persona 3 Reload is kind of a testing ground of sorts for Persona 6's DLC. We have more insight that Persona 6's DLC is going to be very substantial and will get content added to the game regularly over a series of years. In early March this year, Head on a Block stated that Persona 6 is a fully semi-open world game, saying that the game is 95% complete and is releasing next year, 2025, with DLC. He goes on to claim that DLC will include story and characters, and stated that development paused on Persona 6 to make way for a 2 to 3 year roadmap of DLC coming to the game. So, a semi-open world game featuring a multi-year approach to DLC. If this turns out to be true, then Persona 6 is on a scale we have never seen the series before, and makes me even more stoked to get that official announcement we've all been waiting for. In other news about the content of Persona 6, Head on the Block states that the player can control a woman outside of combat and dungeons, but that a woman will not be part of the two main characters. There will also be tons of DLC provided for customizing, presumably customizing each character's appearance, similar to the costume packs we've come to see in Persona 5 and Persona 3 Reload. Both Midori and Head on the Block also state that Persona 6 will adhere to the high school setting again. Finally, Head on the Block claims that social links will be much more fluid in Persona 6, allowing us to interact more with less time restrictions. The part about social links being more fluid and allowing us to interact more with the social link character sounds like a huge win in my book, as I feel like the more visual novel and static approach to the social links in the previous games, while excellent, could use more interactivity. Alright, now we turn to part 3, where the most recent leaks and rumors are finally taking stage. So this past September, we were introduced to some juicy leaks and rumors about the game from ex-user Ramona Rifantasio, detailing a long list of things regarding Persona 6 that almost identically reflects what Midori and Head on the Block reported half a year ago about the game's content. Again, I'm not going to repeat the controversy regarding the identity of ex-user Midori here, but it is worth noting that Midori, or Ryan from the Bronx, as his new profile is named, backs this new information from Ramona Rifantasio by stating that there is, quote, a ton of correct information in this thread, end quote, referring to the stuff mentioned about Persona 6. Here on your screen is a comprehensive list of everything Ramona ReFantazio leaked, starting with a release date of summer 2025, with a reveal being TGA, which is the Game Awards, mentioning that the title is currently in the localization stage, remarking that the title will be on multiple consoles with no clear idea if it will launch on the Switch 2. Ramona ReFantazio has since gone on to say that they are less sure about a reveal at the Game Awards, so again, like I stated at the start of this video, whether or not we hear about Persona 6 at the Game Awards, we're gonna get an official reveal likely in the coming months in 2025. Midori, currently Ryan from the Bronx, recently revealed that he believed Persona 5 The Phantom X is more likely to appear at the Game Awards than Persona 6, stating that he believed that Persona 6 is more likely to appear at a Switch 2 event to help spearhead that upcoming console. Similar to how Atlus revealed Persona 3 Reload, Persona 5 Tactica, and Metaphor ReFantazio at Xbox events, Ryan thinks Atlus may be considering revealing Persona 6 at a Nintendo event to draw even more hype for the upcoming Switch 2. Ramona continues to explain that the main color scheme is green, corroborating Midori's leak this past spring, along with stating that the theme is black and white, which is in accordance with Head on the Block's statement. This also corroborates the two protagonists rumor, with Kuro and Shiro, Japanese for black and white respectively, being the names for the game's two primary protagonists. The game is described to be semi-open world, suggesting that the expansiveness of Metaphor perhaps influenced Persona 6's grand nature. Ramona continues, suggesting that social links have been greatly expanded upon, going further to suggest that the choices we make matter a bit more here in Persona 6. While Midori and Head on the Block both stated that Persona 6 would take place in high school, Ramona states that the game takes place in an art school, with the black and white duality representing modern and traditional art, highlighting the clashes and conflicting nature of modernity versus tradition. If true, having the story revolve around life at an art school would be decidedly different, which better helps distinguish this Persona game among the previous ones. So as for DLC, Ramona, like Head on the Block, mentioned that DLC is a major focus for the title, remarking that there would be a lot of DLC pertaining to cosmetics for party members, along with both smaller and larger expansions that expand on the base game, mentioning that perhaps the larger expansion may actually be separate from the base game. The user concludes by stating that there is around 3 years of planned DLC for Persona 6, mentioning that perhaps the initial expansion pass may not account for all the game's content. This corroborates what Midori stated earlier this year when Sega had used games like Lost Judgment and Persona 3 Reload as test games to see how successful long-term DLC plans could extend the life of their titles. So this much more ambitious Persona 6 DLC plan may feed into Sega and Atlus's intentions in increasing the game's longevity. This calls into question the existence of a potential re-release for Persona 6 or a definitive edition of it, as such an edition may not be planned due to this DLC content rollout. With games like Persona 3 FES and P3P, along with Persona 4 Golden, Persona 5 Royal, and Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance being examples of enhanced re-releases of existing games, Persona 6 may forego that path entirely by adhering to this supposed DLC rollout, but that of course remains to be seen. Ryan from the Bronx states that the development of Persona 6 has moved towards localization, with continued development on DLC expansions starting to pick up. In case you were curious about other projects outside of Persona 6 that Atlus may be working on, Ryan stated that, in addition to Persona 6, that Persona 5 The Phantom X and a Persona 4 remake are in development, along with remasters and other media filling the gaps within the next several years, with even another Persona spin-off in development. Ryan continues further, stating that Persona 4 remake is early on in development. And there you have it. A complete chronological summary of everything we know about Persona 6, both stated from Atlus and Sega themselves, along with key Persona leakers. Whether or not we hear about Persona 6 at the Game Awards, I'm betting we'll be seeing this game in 2026 at the absolute latest, so just hang in there and enjoy everything else Atlus has released this year. But go ahead and let me know what you think about all this information regarding Persona 6 in the comments. I'll be sure to keep you all updated with further developments regarding Persona 6. Go ahead and catch me over in this video as we go over Sega and Atlus's strategy to continue dominating the JRPG market. That's all I got for you in this video. I'll see you real soon in the next one.